Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited for this episode today. Before I introduce you to our guests, here is a quote just for this episode. There's an old Eastern European proverb: beware of the dog that doesn't bark. The loud ones announce themselves, the quiet ones already decided. Our guest today are great friends of the Culture Matters because of how they've impacted my life, although in such a short period of time. The spirit that they exude, I have felt in the actual real world beyond the podcast world, but in the physical realm. I had the opportunity to meet one of our guests in the top contractor school meetup, a community of people with heart that care and love one another. I had the opportunity to meet the one and only Mark Richards there. And then I was invited with a gift, something that really meant something to me, actually, a bracelet to participate in his culture all the way. I don't know where I was, but it didn't matter. I got there and I was struck with passion, with resilience, with candor, with real people doing real things. And I got to meet our other guest, Danijel Velicki, who, geez, probably came here with, if you adjust for inflation, like a limited amount of capital here as in America, and got himself educated, created success, and apparently met the one and only Mark Richards somewhere in the world. And they've been best buddies ever since, building companies in the not just the financial space. We're talking about Cool Hollow Solutions, founder President Mark Richards of this consulting amazing company helping small businesses. Danijel Velicki founding Sqwire after 2 decades helping people with their wealth and financial understandings. I could go going on and on, but I'll stop. This is the longest introduction in the history of the Culture Matters podcast. So I'm proud of that. Thank you
Well, you have
for
two of
coming
us. That's
on and
it.
being here with me and sharing even these proverbs and these quotes on our friendly late night conversations. Mark Richards, welcome. And Danijel Velicki, thank you for coming on the Culture Matters podcast.
So Jay, what did I give you? Just so that all the people that are going to watch this know, you brought it up, but what did I give you?
I took off my watch
It's okay. You just got to talk about it.
and I got a bracelet that I believe is more meaningful than a timepiece, even a thank you sometimes. And it meant a lot. And the audience even knows that, it's funny. That was a ritual that I had. You don't know this, and I wasn't going to share it, but our first couple clients, we gave them bracelets, and one of them passed away on October 16th, 2024,
Hmm.
had a heart attack at work. And we
Well,
actually dedicated last year's New Year's Eve to John Schwartz, the one and only, and the blue bracelets, that he would wear his. And so I got a bracelet. It was yellow, which I think is a great combination to blue from the one and only Mark Richards, which that means the world to me and to those that listen to the show with regularity know what that means. So actually, I have a follow up on that. What does the bracelet mean to you, and what does it mean to you, and why have you given that to people in your life? Because I believe our guest here today, co-guest Danijel, also received one at some point.
yeah, I think I was going to ask you first, but that's fine. I'll go ahead and so I travel a lot all over the country, and a few years ago, I got really challenged to show up differently, is what I would say. And I was, my presence is big. I'm tall, and but I would hide in a corner and I would watch and observe. And um, one of the things one of the guys said to me was, you know, you have so much to give and you're not giving it. And he said you're playing small. And that really hit me kind of in the chest. And so I just decided that I wasn't going to play small anymore. I was going to, when I got an opportunity to be in front of great people, I was going to own every second of it. And so when I get an opportunity to be in new spaces, and if there is somebody that has impact in my life while I have been in a new space, I give them a bracelet, and it's a bracelet out of gratitude. It's nothing crazy. It really isn't. Daniel's wearing one right now. I gave him one. So we have a few different things that we use. Daniel's getting teared up already. Um, but it's an opportunity to show that somebody's had an impact in your life. And hopefully they can leave knowing that the way that they showed up mattered. And I think so many times as us as high performers, we don't we don't get reflected that way. And I just think it's a powerful gift to give. And it creates
Mm.
relationships just like you and I have and Daniel and I have, like because we're all looking for it. And we walk the success pattern a lot by ourselves. And I think the bracelet embodies the fact that you don't have to do this on your own. That's what it means.
Daniel, when did Mark give you yours, and what did you think?
He was actually, you were sitting right next to me. We were at the Mastermind in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. That's where we were, if you remember. And, he presented to me in front of,
Pennsyltucky is what we call it. Anyways, go ahead, Daniel.
and he presented to me in front of everybody, which, both he and I teared up. And I got to say, the one thing that I'll add to Mark's remarks is that as men, we're taught to be alone, to not share feelings, to not say I love you, to not hug, to not be or make ourselves vulnerable. And I believe that's a mistake, just because I think love is something that should be shared and it should be said out loud and it should be known. So, and again, the one reason that Mark and I are as closer friends is because from the moment we met, we knew that there was something special in our personalities that has just drawn us to each other, and that it's okay that we hug it out and that we honestly say, "Hey, man, I love you, and I got your back, and you got mine." And for him, the bracelet is true expression of that feeling in that relationship. And I got to say, I'm so proud of, and one of the things I told you, Jay, that you amaze me first off how you show up, but the second thing that was incredible when I met you, if you remember, within 5 minutes of me asking you like, "Hey, who the hell are you? Why are you so incredible?" Because we meet so many people and you are different. And my daughter walked up, if you remember, and you immediately asked her, "What is your dad's one value?" And without thinking, she said passion. And that immediately, like, it hit me. And I'll say, the reason I say that, to Mark's point, I, on the other hand, when I walk in a room, I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm there. Because it's not all about what you know, it's about who you know and who knows you. And that means so much to me because I always tell my kids, don't be a gray speck on the wall. If you show
Mm.
up, lead, be something that people look up to. Don't be afraid to speak up and to stand for something. So I teach my kids, show up like you own the fucking room, not sitting in a corner, and pay attention. And Maya actually wrote a paper in college about that. And I got an email from a professor saying, you're teaching your kids the right stuff. And that's such a, for me, I'm like, if I'm going to spend my time, my knowledge, my skills, my experience, I want to be the guy in front of the room, sharing and teaching and paying it forward rather than being a gray speck on the wall. And for me, that's always driven me in the right direction because I'm like, if there's a problem, I want to fix it. If there's something that's great, some, a mission of some sort, I want to be a part of it but I don't want to follow. I want to make an impact.
Yep.
And that's always been a big part of me. And Mark with the mastermind and the consulting, everything that he does, he's embodied that as well. So we just, even with the geographical, you know, difference of 6 hours drive, we stayed best friends since the day we met, which was amazing.
When did you guys meet?
London, funny enough. So we were on a chairman's trip for one of the companies that we did stuff
Oh,
with,
wow.
and just immediately our wives, Melissa and Hannah. I mean, Hannah got stuck in the toilet in one of the pubs in London. We had to figure out how to get her
I
out.
love that.
She was like climbing out.
She
She was
was
like
climbing
climbing out
out.
the top of the door. It was
Uh,
crazy.
it was
She
hilarious.
got locked in.
And from that moment on, we were just like, I mean, this. A lot of people, husbands might like each other, but the wives don't. The wives like each other, husbands don't. So it's incredibly special that the four of us just see so much love in each other and so much value to spend time and care about each other that, geography hasn't made any difference in our friendship.
Mark, I'm curious what you think with your evolution to the consulting and advisory context as well. If you look in the past, if you look backward, what elements would you say Daniel and yourself exuded to have the privilege to be at some kind of the chairman sounds like you're being recognized for something. You're both a part of a culture that's recognizing a degree of competency, success. So why were you guys there? What about Daniel
Yeah,
of who
so
he is and how he shows up and yourself? I'm curious about that.
yeah, so I came from a previous company. Um, and when I had left that company and created my own, we had created some other relationships to make it, pretty. And we had made it's called Topic Council, and it's only 120 people out of now 16,000. So, Daniel
Wow.
was a stud, and I got to be a part of.
Was?
Well, you still are.
Yes.
I mean,
Just
you're like retired now, so
yeah, no.
but it's yeah, it was. That's a great word.
Hmm.
Is crazy, amazing, and awesome. And so when we had left the previous company, we went to this thing and knew nobody, zero. And we were with another couple, and they had taken us to this pub, and Daniel and Melissa were there, and like he said, we immediately hit it off. But one of the greatest things about Daniel's personality is he's like encompassing, right? Like he wants everybody to be a part of the fun, right? Like he
Hmm.
wants everybody to be a part of the party. And if you'd have met me, oh my lordy, has it been 10 years? It's been 10 years. 10 years ago, I was pretty quiet, honestly, Jay. I was
And just for those people listening and watching, he's like 6'5", mountain. I'm 6'3". He makes me look small. So, when you talk about quiet and in the corner, like it's hard to miss Mark.
I love that.
Well, you know it. Cowboy boots and jeans and a t-shirt, and then I'm good. So they call me Big Country for a reason. But yeah, Jay, to answer your question, like you just saw there was just something about Daniel that you just wanted to be with, right? Like there's just this energy and there's just this aura of like love and positivity. You know it, you felt it. Let's get real, right? Like I stuck you at his table for a reason, right?
Ooh, we should unpack that. That's
Yeah. Okay, let's
what
unpack that.
what a
I
great
stuck you
highlight of your genius.
I stuck you there for a reason. Okay, so we can talk about that. But I just think to answer your question is Daniel loved on us when he didn't have to, but he chose to, right? Like he chose to show up, he chose to be great. And I think you go down memory lane, it's like, I think I was telling you this the other day. It's kind of crazy. We went and saw them in 2020 during COVID and hung out at their house and went to this Mexican place and had dinner. And it was just really cool to be a part of their like world. And we hadn't seen them in like 3 years. And we had gone to this little beach called Rodanthe, which is in the Outer Banks. We literally had driven 9 hours and set up and went and walked on the beach. And we get on the beach. There's three couples, and there's four women that walk by us. And I kept looking, kept looking, kept looking, and I'm like, there is no way. There's no way. And I thought for sure it was Melissa, which is his wife. And I don't know if you've heard this story or not. So I haven't seen these guys in 3 years, right? Like, we've stayed in touch, but we
Yeah.
weren't as tight.
Talk to the phone, all that stuff, but not
Yeah,
in person.
yeah. And so I'm in the middle of nowhere, Outer Banks. Like this is a middle of nowhere, Outer Banks. And the four girls like circle back around us, and they're getting ready to walk into a fishing line because in the Outer Banks everybody fishes at nighttime. And I said, "Hey girls, just be careful. There's a fishing line here." And I looked at her again and I was like, "You have got to be kidding me. That has to be her." And so I literally said, "Do any of you guys know anybody from Croatia?" And she goes, "I fucking knew it was you." And comes up and jumps on me and gives me the biggest hug. And
Out of all the beaches in all the country,
and you talk about like God putting it all
yeah,
together,
it was meant to happen.
was meant to be. And
Yeah.
so and we've been
Wow.
basically inseparable since.
Yeah.
And it's funny how the seasonalities of relationships happen. Um, and it's amazing when they show up when you need them the most.
Yep.
Daniel, what do you what's your advice or your if you were to give insight, wisdom to our listeners of the power of the mastermind or the or maybe you would use a different word, the power in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, there's the idea of the mastermind alliance. It's like the second or third of the so would you use a different term? Like how,
No, I think it's a great term just because I anytime you put combination of brains together in one room, magic happens. And you never know what's going to happen and who you're going to meet and what you're going to learn. And, like I said, I was so impressed. I was at the table and I was supposed to be, or I was the moderator of the conversation and stuff for our, business. I mean, you were there, obviously, Jay. And it's incredible to hear people's stories and then things that they're dealing with, things that they're struggling with. And it's the same. One of my biggest takeaways from the previous mastermind was, there were two guys in my table, and one was struggling with stuff, and he was like the whole time he was in concrete business or whatever, and the other guy was HVAC. So the whole time he was like, I wanted to leave my business because it was so hard, and I was dealing with all the stuff. And I thought about, I look at these HVAC guys, and I think they're awesome, so I want to do that. But the HVAC guy was saying the same issues that the other guy had. It was like the grass is not freaking greener. This guy's dealing with the same shit I'm dealing with, just in a different business. So I shouldn't be leaving. I should just work on my business, just like he's working on his business. And, understanding that we all struggle with stuff, and seasonality is a great word because, I watched I don't know if you have seen the video of, I think it was Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, like 6 or 7 of the biggest actors around the table. And one of the things that Tom Hanks talks about, just remember, this too shall pass. If it's the worst, it's going to end. When it's the best, it's going to end. So just understand that you're put into place for a reason, but this too shall pass. And one of the biggest things that, I try to teach, and, even in that conversation when we were at that table, Jay, if you remember, one of the things I talked to the guy with the health business, and I was like, growth,
chiropractic?
yes. And I was like, this will pass. Like you're struggling with things, but just work on it, and then it will be great. But that too shall pass. So just understand that seasonality is real, and that all you're doing is just it's temporary situations that you got to get through. But so many people tend to either quit too soon, and we hear that so often, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's one phone call away, but they quit from that yes, and that can change their life. So just being understanding completely and ready and open to what is this preparing me for, whether it's great or bad, because I'm not the man I need to be today to be there tomorrow and be ready for whatever tomorrow is. So growth is consistent, hopefully.
I want to acknowledge you for something that I observed you do in that gathering, which was you shared something from an entrepreneur organization, Daniel, about each person going around and sharing, or when they share, to reflect it back with, hey, I have encountered
Yes.
this and this is what's worked for me. I want to acknowledge you for that. And Mark, the power of that gentleman, I believe, yes, Douglas, the Holy Spirit, the inspiration of you bringing all of us together. I felt called to connect Douglas to Andrea Dobkin. She's a regular on the show, that our co-host for New Year's Eve Lollapalooza 2025 yesterday. Mr. Calhoun introduced me to Andrea, and Andrea and Douglas, I think, have become fast friends. And what a testament to your decision to get people to get right to. So I got to ask about that evolution of, like, at one point you were a guy in a corner in a quiet mountain,
Quiet Mountain, that's right.
quiet mountain with eagles flying, perching on you, thinking about, where are the other eagles, looking down on the turkeys. These eagles are perching on your mountain.
Yeah.
By the way, Plato they was actually means broad shouldered. I just wanted, like, I'm very excited about that.
Broad shoulder.
Plato means broad shouldered. His name anyway. So yeah, you got like big traps and stuff. So mountain, right? Okay. The question, I'm getting lost in my own sauce here. How does a guy that goes from being the guy in the corner quiet to literally being the mechanism for Jay to that's me, participate, watch this stranger Daniel facilitate well, to where I then recognize Douglas and say, hey, there's somebody in my life he needs to connect with. And now I think they have a relationship.
Yeah.
So what's that journey look like? Because we have listeners that may be where you were saying you were, where I have been, and working through that. So what do you say?
Yeah, I
How
think
do you even start that transformation?
it's kind of a crazy story, right? So, in 2023, I was laying on a couch and I thought I was having a heart attack. And you probably don't know this. And come to find out, I had herniated a disc in my C6, C7, and I had to have total neck surgery, disc replacement, anyways. And it was kind of like my awakening, right? Like I'll say I had achieved, quote, quote, what I thought I was supposed to do, right? Like when you come from, I'll call it first generation founder, you get into this like rhythm of life and you're like, okay, I've made it, right? Like you've made it. And what I would say to the listeners is you've just started, right? David
Mm.
Goggins says when you're basically about to be done, you've only hit 40%, right? Can't hurt me. Great book.
Mhm.
And which means you still got 60% left in the gas tank. And that's kind of what hit me when I went through that phase. I was
Wow.
like, dude, I still got 60% more to go. And at this time, I was coaching a guy named Keith Gausch, and I was helping him. He's out of Florida. He's in Jacksonville, and I was helping him through a few things. He's like, "Dude, we should join this mastermind called the Boardroom, which is built around real estate together." I think I've talked to you about that, Jay. And
Yeah.
I was like, "I've never done anything like this. Let's do it. Sounds great." The worst experience I've ever had in my life, the first time. Like you gotta put this presentation together. They break you out in rooms. There's only 200 members allowed. Kent has done an unbelievable job of building this platform. So shout out to Kent and the boardroom. But it literally changed my life. Literally changed my life. And I'm in the room and there's this guy named Chris Noggle who has become an unbelievably good friend of mine. And he was just like blasting us, right? Like we're presenting and he's blasting us. Long story short, like um, it made us grow. It made us get uncomfortable. And what I realized, I wouldn't even say me, my team realized in watching the change of me, which is so great when you have an awesome team around you, is that they will observe and watch and then they want to share it. And sometimes we as leaders, because we have been um, so uh, just hurt is probably the easiest way I can say it from the people in our lives is that sometimes we forget that it's still our job to give, and our job is to give abundantly um, to those around us that matter the most. And so my team came
Wow.
to me and they said, "We got to do a mastermind." I'm like, "Y'all are crazy, and I don't want to do this." And so back to your original question, Jay, was
Wow.
the idea was how do we get leaders together so that way they can meet each other because they don't do that. They don't, right? Like we think of masterminds as normal because we're all part of them but in small communities where I come from, that's not normal. And so my thought was like, let's get let's get 50 people. I think our first one we had 50 people in. And just try to give them an opportunity to meet some good people. We did a little different. We basically do business owners or their kind of like their leadership team only. There's all kinds out there that do different things, but the idea was two things for me, honestly, Jay, was I wanted them to have a safe space where they knew they were not alone.
Mhm.
And the second one was is I wanted them to have the ability to collaborate because as many people as I've had the opportunity to meet with, and I feel like I'm a pretty good, I call it handshake, right? Like let's make sure the right people are meeting the right people, but I can't do it alone. And I think when you get past the point of realizing that, it takes more than you, it takes a community, and that's where the brilliance comes. And the reality is you guys can say whatever you want about our mastermind, but it's the people in the room. The people in the room are what make it great. They're the ones that make it work. They're the ones that drive the energy. And so when you came to ours, we were on our second one only, right? Like we had only done two. So Cool Hall of Masterminds, that's what we call it. Um, and we have this little logo. It's a buffalo. It's pretty cool. And people ask me about the logo all the time. I don't know if you've asked me about this or not, Jay, but the logo embodies that the buffalo is the only animal that runs in the storm compared to away from it. But they don't run into the storm alone. They run
What a
in,
beautiful metaphor.
they
Mhm.
run into the storm as a pack. And most business owners are running into the storm by themselves. And so our whole thing was to help build a community to be able to run into the storm together. So the idea was not about me, and I'm sure you can talk about this, but like when we do our meetings, it's not about us at all. We try very, very, very little for us, and I think I only spoke maybe twice the time you were there, which we try to keep me to the minimum. But the idea is that we wanted to create a community for people to know they're not alone and what they're going through is absolutely normal. And that there's a lot of people around them just like themselves, and they most of the time don't know who they are. And that was our goal with it.
Why did you ask Daniel to speak at the first one?
Yeah, so um, Daniel, so two things. The next one is gonna be in April, so hopefully you can come. It's gonna be in
April of
Gettysburg.
2026.
Yeah, April
Yep.
29th to May 1st. Um, it'll be in
Oh,
Gettysburg.
wow.
We're gonna do a few days. It's gonna be very business focused, just to help, business owners understand. So Daniel's actually going to be way more a part of the next one than he has previously been. So to go back to your question, is two things. One is um, Daniel communicates with his heart, and we had him close the first day. So we had a great speaker, Taylor Kavanaugh, came in. Actually, he lived in San Diego at that point. He's now in Coeur d'Alene. Shout out to TCAV.
Amazing.
Yeah, he just did an amazing job. He's one of my favorite people in the world. But I wanted somebody to end the day to communicate that anything's possible. And so as you learn more about Daniel, the reality is that uh, the world that we choose to be in as entrepreneurs is not easy. But the reality is if we show up intentionally every day, we work a little bit more than everybody else, and we have a little bit of grit, and we have a little bit of love and joy. It's amazing what we can achieve. And I wanted him to share that to our community. And he just continues to embody that. You know, he came to our second one to support us and brought his wife, which was amazing, and daughter Maya. And I think they
With
both,
a J.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I,
Maja.
my job. And I think that they were both blown away with the
Mhm.
experience and just, just loved what was going on inside the community. And so for me, I say this, and you heard me say this. I feel so blessed that I've gotten to meet so many wonderful people, and I just want to share them with the community that matters to me the most, which is, where I come from. And so Daniel is a gift for me to be able to share to the world, you know, honestly, Jay.
Danijel Velicki. Part of the
Yes.
reason we're here is because you gave me 100,000 Croatians. I would conquer the
Conquer the
world.
world.
Napoleon
Yep.
said that.
Yep.
You like a storm, like a buffalo against the wind. It came up, you started a conversation with me after this gathering. It impacted me. You looked at me. You looked at me. You gave me you had an intention. You gave me attention. So I thank you for that. But
Yeah.
the question behind that is, what were you at? Because it seems to be a pattern in some sense I want to understand and tap into on a deeper level in my own life. I think it'd be helpful for the audience. What were you thinking when you were raging against the wind to that restaurant owner about to pitch him on paying for your education?
Um, well, and the story is crazy. I mean, I know I shared it with you, but for your listeners, I'm from Croatia. That's why Jay is talking about the 100,000 Croatians and stuff. And if you look at Croatia, it's a small little country, 3.9 million people, but we're always top 5 or 10 in most of the sports. Obviously soccer, European football, water polo. We just won the world championship. So people ask us, why are you so good but so little? And the thing that an answer, across our history of thousands of years of being Croatians and fighting the Turks and the Ottoman Empire and the German, like all the things that we have been through, is spite, and it's a passion for life. But spite is probably the right word, because you better kill us. We're never going to quit. And that's absolutely what I embody. And I had to learn, why I'm the way I am. And, one of the things that I appreciate about you, and I'll come back to you story once I'm done with this real quick. But when I was coming to America, so Jay, one of the things for this listener, Jay, those of you that don't know, Jay reads what, like 200-300 books a year, somewhere around there. I thought I was good at like 30. So, but I love learning, because I believe that books are a view into something, somebody experienced thing that you couldn't otherwise have ability to learn. And I read Nietzsche in 8th grade, and one of the things that stuck with me, and I brought it with me as a laminated note: he who wants to fly one day must first learn how to stand and walk. One cannot fly into flying. And that was in my wallet when I was coming to America. And I wanted to stay in, because this is the best country in the world. I lived through the war of Serbia and Croatia for 4 years, from 14 to 18. Had no money. My mom was a retail worker, my dad was an auto mechanic. And they said, hey, find a way to stay in America for college and find a way to build a better life than what we can in post-war Croatia. Um, so to Jay's point, I walked into this man's restaurant. There's the best restaurant in Fairmont, West Virginia, and I'm 18. Now imagine, stranger walking to you and says, "Hey, Mr. Rocco, that's the owner, the most amazing man. I'd like to talk to you." And he was like, "All right, strange kid that I've never seen before, come to my office." So go to the office. He was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "You don't know me. I'm from Croatia. We just finished the war. I'm a 4.0 student. I got accepted to all these schools. I took extra classes in America to get a real American diploma. Usually foreign exchange students get a honorary diploma, so they have to go back to wherever they're from to finish school. I took extra classes, graduated, did really well on ACTs, and got accepted into college. And I said, I have no money. I don't have a green card. I don't have a work permit, but I would love for you to give me a job, and I'll work for you, cook, clean, paint, whatever you need, how much you need. and for you to pay for my school, and I'll pay you back with the money I earn from you. And he looked at me and said, okay, like, who does that? And so I worked there for 4 years, met my wife there. We married 24 years, 3 kids. And it just, I learned early in my life that if you just try, you never know. You might succeed. But if you never try, you'd have no idea. And one thing that I could not live was what if. I actually went back to Croatia, told my parents that I made this unbelievable, impossible thing happen. And my parents looked at me and said, son, we miss you. We don't want you to go. And it was,
Wow.
he's rubbing because he knows the story. And I left to go to Vienna, visited a friend for 3 days. And I came back. I walked the streets by myself. And I came back to my parents and I said, Mom, Dad, I love you, but I can't not try. I cannot live with what if. What if it works? What if I do something? What if I build a life that's in my dreams? And I
Wow.
left and I went to, America for school, got a double major in 3.5 years. My last 2 semesters took 25 and 26 hours to graduate my wife. And then got into the hardest industry. I believe 1 out of 10 people actually succeed. But that's I don't fail, I fall forward. I have no ego. I have a beginner's mind, and I am always inquisitive. And that's to come to the second part of your question with you. You struck me, and I told you this. That's the thing that I stopped you and I said, you are the most deliberate communicator I've ever met. You take the time to ask, to think before you speak, and I've never experienced that. And your answers were so well thought out and so well communicated that I remember I was walking behind you as we were, and for those listeners, Jay was I was the moderator of the group. There was what, 7 of us at our table. And I walked behind Jay. We were at a different place. I found a good corner where we could all speak and because we were sharing a lot of personal and business stuff. And I was walking behind Jay and I was like, this guy's not normal. I need to find out who the hell he is. And you struck me immediately. Like, I just knew that you were different, man. And I had to learn about you. And that's the thing. I want to know the people's story because there's always something I can learn. There's always something that I can take away from it. And that's, I think, the one thing that I'm most proud about myself is the beginner's mind. And I've met so many people, so many leaders that know everything, and they'll tell you they know everything, which I believe that just stops you from growing. It stops you from learning and taking life in and being able to be greater. Because everything that I've learned about you, and one thing that I did tell you, if you remember, I gave you a little bit of a criticism
Thank you.
when I asked you where you went to school, and you immediately paused, and I could see your confidence shook because
Yes. Oh, yeah. So much
immediately.
pain.
And I was like, you need to
Yeah.
take that shit away. School doesn't make a man. Your brain is unlike anybody I've ever met. And that chip on your shoulder, you need to get rid of it. Because if anybody spends 2 minutes with you, you can teach. You don't need to be taught. So, and that's something that I immediately recognized, and I told that to Mark. And I was like, I want to stay close to this guy because you're somebody to watch. And I'm just honored that we became friends, man. And I really appreciate you.
It feels like a call in the sense that where my interpretation when Mark and I really connected at the top contractor school was after the event. We were sitting in a circle. It was like the circle after the circle after the circle. This is where I felt the connection with Mark. Like it clicked for me. And the quote that you shared, I got up at one point in kind of like a manic stare and was like, anyone who wants to learn to fly one day cannot fly, must learn to
I'm
stand and
flying,
walk and
flying.
crawl
Yep.
and run and dance. One cannot fly into flying. That's the quote that it was like, what, to find that out later. I just wanted to like, wow. I'm gonna have to like really reflect on that.
Well, two quotes that I took, and just not to interrupt you, but two quotes that I carry now, and I don't have my wallet with me, but first one, and to Mark's, he said already, I will never ever be outworked. And the second one is a measure of a man or a woman is what it takes to stop him. Because things are not easy. Life, business, fatherhood, like all the things are hard, and it's easy to stumble and it's easy to feel like you're failing. But as long as you, again, have a beginner's mind, you better yourself, you grow, you just fall forward and you just don't stop, because then, what's the point of anything? So that's for me something that is non-negotiable.
Mark, you mentioned, I wrote it down. It was like people, I have, you talked about, oh, here it is, my notes. Yeah, from yesterday. How can they be real in spite of their success is a question that you have pondered or are pondering. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think with success can create a balance of confidence and arrogance. It's the truth, right?
Yeah.
And you're floating the line between the two. And so, um, I have a really good buddy. He just did a post. He just bought himself a Rolls-Royce SUV, whatever that thing's called. I drive Ford pickup trucks, so I can't remember what it's called. Um, I know we make fun of big country, but uh, I think the thing is, and the greatest thing I would say is, success doesn't have to be the defiance of you, but um, it should be the embodying of you, if that makes sense, right? Like, and that's one of the things that Daniel has just hit you and I both square in the eyes on between our conversation last night and today is, I always said, like, I'm just a, dumb, sophisticated redneck. And he's like, you will never say that again. So you'll never hear that out of my mouth again. Because he's like, you're not a dumb anything. I don't ever want to hear that out of you again. And a lot like our past is, I went to high school, didn't finish college. So there's some of that like probably still shows up in me. And um the reality is, I always talk about golf. It's just my way to analogize like the success in the world, but you can go read all the books that you want about golf, but if you never go out and swing the club, you're not like you don't know how to play golf, right? The reality is you can be the most educated person in the world, but if you're not applying it, I use an example when I speak a lot, and I don't have my wallet on me right now, but I hold up a $100 bill. So I'm going to use my iPhone as an example for the audience, and I go, "Who wants the iPhone?" So I might be speaking to 10 people or 300 or 400, and they all raise their hand. But you know who comes and gets it? No one.
Nobody?
No one. And that's the difference with being somebody that's going to take action. You got to go get the bitch, man. Like, you got to come take the phone out of my hand. Yeah, I want that. I'm going to come get it. Because if you're not doing that, somebody else will. So I think to your question is this, right? Like, there's a way to balance success and to be humble in it. And I think the biggest thing for me has been, um, if I was gone tomorrow, what would my kids say about me? Was I an
Yeah.
arrogant, pompous ass?
Huh.
Was I self-loathing in all of my success and the things that I wanted? Or did I show up and love my kids the way that I should have? Did I love my wife? Right? Like, I think one of the most valuable things in the world is for people to watch how their husbands treat their brides. I really do. I think that there's a lot in the world that comes from watching a man and how he treats the person that he loves the most in his life. We're not perfect at it. I'm not perfect at it. I'm never going to admit that. But man, I try really hard to love Hannah as much as I can. And so I think to your question is, for me, it has been my kids are watching, and what are they going to say about their dad? My son,
Mm.
And while he's collecting himself, I also want to say that two of us, I'll tell anybody the best decisions we ever made is our wives.
yeah,
24 years of marriage. How many are you?
20. We just celebrated
20
20.
years of marriage.
Yeah.
That in itself is in today's society success. And like our wives make us better.
Yeah. So my kids, my birthday was December 23rd, which is recent. And
Happy birthday.
thank you. And probably proudest moment I've had in a long time. My wife had posted we had a day for my birthday and my kids kind of planned the whole thing out. And the next day, my son posted the goat.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Hey, that's a big deal.
The goat.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And so
That's
I'm sorry, Audie.
congratulations.
My fault.
No, the reason that's a big
Uh,
deal for this show is I'll tell you after I shut up because I want to hear the rest.
no, it just
I'll,
it
I,
it just it
it's
goes
a big
back to your
deal.
question is like are
You
you
know,
showing up? Are you showing up? Because the reality is you can say whatever the fuck you want. Pardon my English.
no, it's yeah, please.
But the reality is, it doesn't matter what you say. It's about what you do because that's what people watch. And my kids shared a message of his dad having his birthday and called me the goat. So, to your question, I think is, are your kids going to call you the goat? Or if you don't have kids, what is everybody else going to call you? You're not going to make everybody love you. Let's get real. I mean, through your success journey, you're going to create enemies. I think Aaron Rodgers said like, I'm trying to remember how he said it, but it was basically like the people above you will never critique you, and the
Hmm.
people below you will always critique you. It was somewhere in that sense, and I apologize, Aaron, if I'm saying that wrong. But the idea is the same: is you got to get the noise out of your head of the people below you because they don't understand what you're trying to do, and the people above you are the ones that are always going to elevate you. And but I think if you
I would
can
have
do
wrote I
that,
wrote this down. Um, sorry, you were
But
finishing.
to
I'm
second,
done. I'm
yeah,
good. I'm good.
to second
That's very
Mark,
emotional
to second Mark,
right
I
here.
had a great mentor when I first started in the business, and he told me, I was like, work as if your child was sitting next to you watching you and learning. How would you show up at work? What would you do? Like that's something that stuck with me to be the best that I can every day. Because if Maya was sitting next to me and watching me and learning from my activities, the way I show up, the way I talk to people, the way I do things, like that's a huge motivator, man. Like you think about that, and if you don't have a child, it's your spouse, it's your best friend, it's somebody that you care about. How would they learn from you every day as they're sitting next to you watching you do things, because that's what it is, that's what we're doing, and hopefully we show up in the best possible way. But and then you, on the other side of that, you also have to give yourself grace and know that you're going to have bad days, you're going to have depressed days, you're going to have rainy days when you don't have the energy, you're going to have those days when you just feel like it's too much. Well, then go home, take a day, give yourself space, give yourself grace, wake up and do everything it takes to be successful. I shared one of my posts on Instagram that I posted. Everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to do lion shit. I mean that's the truth because it takes everything, and most people don't want to give it. But then it can give you everything, but most people don't want to earn it.
everybody wants what you got until they realize how much it takes to get
So yeah, when they call you lucky, dude, they have no freaking clue.
or it must be nice. That's another thing I
Yeah,
love.
it must be nice. Yeah,
It
you have
must
no
be
idea.
nice. Yeah. It must be nice is fun, huh? We were just talking about that last
Yeah,
night.
we were.
It must be nice. Man,
How
you got
many how
you got
many sleepless nights? How many calls of, oh my gosh, can you spot me? Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do it. Please help me. Like, did I do the right thing? Should I quit? But I can't, and I'll keep moving and feel falling forward. But people don't see that. They see the highlights, and we talk about this often. We live in the highlight society with Instagram, Facebook, all the things, but they don't see the background of that picture. What it took to get to London, what it took to be here and have this house for Mark and Hannah, and like what it takes to be in America for me, what it took, everything. But most people don't want to give that. But they will judge it and they will criticize you and they will try to knock you down because they want you at their level because they can't get to your level. You know what they say about stupid people? They bring you down to their level, to their level, and then beat you with experience. That's one of my favorite quotes.
And beat you with experience?
Yeah, because that's where they live.
That's where they
You're
live.
not used to being there.
You don't get it.
They pull you down, and then they beat the shit out of you with experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why did each of you start your businesses today?
Mine was a call. I was sitting across from people, and I found my success in teaching because one of my quotes is I don't want to sell, I want to teach, I want to help, I want to empower. And I was sitting across from a couple, and they knew nothing. They were highly educated, and I was like, if these people don't know, what about the rest? What about those that are like my parents, that were auto mechanic and a retail worker that didn't have secondary, higher education, that need the help? And we live in a post-pension society. Nobody has pensions anymore. Everything's on our shoulders, but there's no education, support, empowerment to help people make the right decisions and put themselves in the right spot and actually be able to enjoy life and retire at some point. And once I started thinking about building Sqwire, and Sqwire is a financial literacy wellness platform that we built for businesses, but then also for colleges, universities, for students, faculty, staff, alumni. And once I started thinking about that, I just couldn't go back to one-on-one. I couldn't. I felt like I was not doing enough to help enough people, and I just felt like everybody needed what we were teaching, and I had to figure out how to scale it. And once that was in my head, it's the closest thing, you use the word call. It's the closest thing that I can think of from a religious standpoint of a call. I just couldn't sleep until I built it. It was just something that was I just couldn't get it out of my head anymore. And that was the reason why I built Sqwire. And I think
Mark?
Mark was doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think hearing from Daniel is just the passion around financial literacy, right? Like it's a almost it's the unspoken epidemic of what's going on in our
Absolutely.
society right now. And so, you know, having somebody like Daniel leading the force, he didn't talk about this, but he said, I want to build a platform that my mom from Croatia could learn from and give her the ability to understand how to have financial literacy. And um, I think that's because Daniel, you know, was running an amazing company like we talked about 40 minutes ago. He was top of council. He was top 120 out of 16,000 people and chose to leave, I'll say the comfort and convenience of what
Hmm.
he was once in to quote quote lead into his calling. So I think, both of us being in kind of the financial industry for now 20 years, financial literacy is super important. And there's only two of us, so we can only touch so many people.
Right.
And it's funny when Daniel was coming up with this, I was at his house in 2020. I was like, dude, this thing is brilliant and we need it. And I've supported him as much as I can, right, through his journey. But I think what he's doing matters because we really don't have anything, in our I'll call it ecosystem that helps people really understand how to be financially literate. So for your question, in Coal Hall Solutions, it's very simple.
Hmm.
Um, I got asked a question, and it was, do you think you could have built your business in half the time had you had the right mentorship? And I really had to think, Jay, I really had to think about that. Like I had to ponder that. I'm like, you're thinking time, you're thinking energy, you're thinking client acquisition, right? Like there's a lot of things that go into us as business owners and our brains, right? Like I thought at first I was like, no way in hell, right? Seriously, I'm like, no way in hell, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't know how
yeah.
I could have, I don't know how I could have worked any harder, right?
Right.
Which is what we came from, right? Like all of us, right?
That's
That's
better.
that, no, harder, not
Yeah.
smarter, right? Um, and I had just got done reading a book called 10X is easier than 2X, which I'm sure a lot of your readers are familiar with. And there's some really good tidbits in it. And I was like, you know what? I probably could have built a business that now exists the way that it is now in 10 or 12 years compared to 20 had I had somebody in my corner to help me compress time. And that's the whole thing that we do inside of Solutions is we want to help business owners. Two things is we want them to know that they got a team behind them that wants them to win, and we want them to win big. Like if they win big, it helps their communities, it helps their employees, it helps their employees' families. Like there's this like trickle effect that most people don't understand when it comes to small business ownership and how it supports our like literal economy. Period. Like when small business ownership is thriving, our economy in the United States is better than it ever is, period. Done. There's no there you can't go back and look statistically. It doesn't matter how big government gets. Like statistically, when small business ownership is thriving, we have an economy that wins. And so Solutions is exactly that. We just wanted a team for you to know that as a small business owner, you don't have to do this alone. And our whole goal was to help you compress time. Like if you're a small business owner, there are just things you don't know. There are blind spots in your world you have not seen. I always say like when we throw the pebble in the pond or the rock in the pond, we want to help people understand what the ripple effect is 3 down, not the first one. And help them really be confident in the decisions they're making so that they can progressively move their business faster and be very confident in decisions that they're making. And that's, like, and I was just telling Daniel this last night, like if I would have stayed focused on the financial side, I would have made a lot more money than I have in the last 3 or 4 years. Right. Like, but just like Daniel has done with Sqwire for us was my heart and my passion is just to help business owners win because we need them to win.
Well, I'll add to that if you don't mind. The one thing that, and you know this, Jay, a plumber can be a great plumber and build a business, but he's not a business owner. He's not a mindset of cash flow, LLCs, protection, insurance,
KPIs,
all the things, KPIs, understanding their best customers, their, rate of return on investment in any kind of machinery or whatever they're buying. They're a fantastic plumber. People that own gyms are great, potentially workout people, but they don't know how to run a business. The business is constant. The product, the service is different.
Yeah.
But the people that do it did it because they're awesome at that job, not because they're an amazing business owner. And that's the difference, right? So what Mark does on a genius level is you do you. Let us help you build what needs to be built as a solid structure to allow you for better growth and sustainability. Because it doesn't mean that, I had the privilege of meeting oh my gosh, I just forgot the name. The biggest plumbing company. You would know it. But anyway, I played a poker with the son of the big company. It doesn't matter the name, and he introduced himself as a plumber. And I was like, I found out who he was. I was like, dude, you're not a plumber. You own a company with 40,000 employees. He was like, dude, I'm just a plumber. I love that job. We have MBA people that are running the business. He was like, I'd never learned how to run a business. And that's the biggest thing that people forget. It's like a guy with a gym or a lady with the gym is an awesome, like, we own, Melissa and I own the CrossFit gym. We bought it from a guy that was going to go bankrupt because he was an athlete. Didn't know cash flow, didn't know management, didn't know employee manual, didn't know coaching, didn't know any of that stuff. He was an amazing technician, operator that built a business. Yeah. So you talk about HVAC, you talk about plumbing, electrician, like all these things. Doesn't mean that they know what they're doing on the back end. They're just great at their craft. And we need them and we want them. So we support the back end, right? I'll help their employees, retention, understanding, stress, all that stuff. And then Mark works on the systems, processes, KPIs, growth, all the things that can take away all the stress from the owner and they can do what they do. So that's the big thing that people forget when it comes to business. Doesn't mean that you're a business owner. You're just amazing what you do, and that's great. Let us help you.
I think one of the coolest things, Jay, and I think you and I talked about this, is a business owner normally starts a business for 2 reasons, right? One is they've come from an ecosystem that they think they can typically run better,
yep.
Right? And then they have some kind of community aspect to how they want their business to exist. So whether that's giving back community or wanting to be the best I'll say HVAC company in the community, and they get to be a presence inside of it, and they get to help that that community grow because of their employment. But one of the things that I always see from who we work with is that the business ends up unfortunately being everything that they didn't think it would be, which is they thought that they were going to have, I'll call it autonomy. I call it flexibility, but they felt like, I'll be able to start a business. I'll have more time to deal with my kids. I'll be able to go all the ball games. And then what happens? They're there in the morning at 6 a.m. and they leave at 7 or 8. They're the first one there, the last one to leave. And unfortunately, everything that they thought their business was going to be for them is now it's almost their mistress. And I hate to call it that, but that's kind of what it becomes.
Time
And
freedom is not free, and everybody thinks it is when they become a business owner.
yeah. And you, I mean, I don't know what the stat is for marriage success inside of business ownership. It's probably pretty low. I have no idea. Um, but I use the word mistress a lot when I talk to our business owners, especially as we're taking them on as new clients. And the first thing we say is like, we want to help you literally learn how to not have the business run your life, right? Because they're owned by their business. And I think, most businesses, exactly like what you do, is they've reached a success level, but they're not sure where to go next. And the reason that they come to you and I is because they know that they can't keep doing what they've done in the past, right? Like you can't do the things that have gotten you to where you are and repeat them to go to where you want to be. And and that's the whole thing is I'm not perfect at it. I still probably work more than I should. Daniel does too. You probably do. Well, I know you do, right? Like you got
You've
14,
seen your schedule.
you got 14,000
Speaking of
things
that,
tomorrow.
it's 12:51, Jay.
You guys are coming. Hey, I got 720 seconds. So listen, um, I love you guys. I got one more rapid fire question. This is
Okay.
definitely a part one.
Okay.
Um, I can learn a lot from both of you. I am. And Mark, I got to make a joke because comedy either reveals what we're not ready to articulate or can't. But just about everybody I ever was had the opportunity to help. No, it's not that they came to me. I was just waiting for when no one else was there. So like I was just there as I was there, right? So it's like okay, we're gonna so that's where I'm at in my career. So I hope I can mature into the light that you are. So both of you are. So my question, a rapid fire, go through each team member comes in mind, a core value, constructive core value that comes to your mind. Because the reason I ask is you guys are great case studies for inclusive team. Like I met your daughter, Daniel, and your wife, and I haven't met the rest of the team, but I'm making an assumption. And then Mark, I've seen your culture in action. I watch your Instagrams. It's more than just you. So just run through. Daniel could go for, or you could ping pong it. Daniel do one, Mark do one, just rapid, like one core value that comes to mind for each of your team members.
I gotta say, for all of them, I was extremely honored that most of my team members joined because of our mission. So they're absolutely driven by what we do, and I think passion is across the board. One of the values that is extremely important to me, and my team members absolutely exude that. And then I think impact is very big, and that's the drive of our company. I mean, our number one impact mission is impact 1 million lives by 2028. And that's what we talk about all the time. So I would say those two are probably the biggest for just about everybody on our team.
Yeah, I think I have two, well, we'll call it three. So Hannah, Cam, and Kathy, um, to kind of like wrap them all in one is they just have a love and passion and desire to show up and to help. And they have superpowers in their own spaces and they just want to share them. They want to give them to the world. And when you find those kinds of people, man, you just got to try to figure out how to keep them.
Yep.
And I think for our team, what's that?
It's fire.
It's fire, fire. But I just think when you find those kinds of people, you got to share them to the world. I always tell people, I tell my team this. Um, we are building links of chains in our life. And I just hope that through their link of their chain of their life, that I'm a bright, shining link in theirs. And I don't know how long I'm going to get to be a part of their world, but I hope as long as that exists, that I get to be a bright link in their life. And I think when you can share that and you own that and you get to be a part of that, it allows them to show up in their brilliance. And
Yep.
I think to your audience, I would just tell you, if you've got good people, push them into their brilliance and understand what their brilliance is. And then
Mm.
encourage them how to own that better inside of your ecosystem. Because, I came from a world where I owned every piece of it. I know you got to go. I'm sorry, Jay, but
Oh no, I'm prepared for
okay.
the next thing. We're good. We
Okay.
got 2 minutes.
Okay, so I just think with inside of your ecosystem, just let them shine their light, and you'll be amazed at how it changes your business.
Yep.
I just want to show you real quick. I got 2 statues of you guys in my house, and I didn't even realize it till this morning. It's the
What's it,
craziest
Dumb and Dumber
thing.
statue?
Right here, they're pretty heavy, so I just gotta like, I don't know if you could
Got
see,
two statues
dude.
of Dumb and
I
Dumber.
got two
Do
statues
I
of
get to
you
wear the
two,
blue one or the orange
and
one?
so this is in the way, dude. I got freaking Warren right here, and I got Daniel and Mark right here. You're sitting next to each other on the couch.
That's
Warren
hilarious.
Buffett and Charlie Munger right here. It's like, you guys are the shit. Oh man, this is heavy. Put it right on.
Number one and
This
number
has
two.
been a gift. You guys are a gift.
Hey,
Thank you for
thank
coming
you.
on the Culture Matters podcast. If you're listening to this episode, follow. Well, first of all, just how do they follow you on one place? Because that confuses people, right?
Cool Hall Solutions on Instagram is the
And
easiest way to find
Daniel,
me.
And then Instagram is DV Speaks.
please share this with somebody that matters to you. Leave us a review in the Culture Matters podcast. With these reviews, we can reinvest in this show. More people that listen. Shoot, we're outside of the studio, so that's good. We need some reviews. Please leave us a review in the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you,
Jay,
Jay.
thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you and everybody listening.